This one is for all you high-achieving women who love to be in control, always in the driver's seat, and feel sometimes very disconnected and anxious and overwhelmed. Tiffany and I discuss today how really creating time for more connection and more pleasure and time off will help you create more love and also more money.
So essentially I started my first company about 6 years ago, and long story short, we had scaled, I don't want to say too fast because I don't know if that was really the issue. It was, I just didn't know what I didn't know around leading people. And I had scaled up to several employees. And long story short, it came crashing down and caused a massive mental heartache for me. That I think almost every entrepreneur goes through, but I don't know if enough of us talk about it. And I ended up in a hospital. So I think years ago was when I realized I needed you, but I didn't find you until a year ago. So after that, I almost lost my whole company in one single Monday. And I got some help back then, but ultimately I could never really find someone that I related to and that really found out what my real triggers were. And, at the end of the day, when I almost lost my company that first time, it wasn't about just like losing the company. I felt like I was going to lose my life, like my purpose, my family. And although I was thinking that in my head, I don't know if that was really true looking back, but that's how it feels in the moment. And I would say like I've still been mentally recovering from that situation and a lot of other stuff in my life for years now. And until I really started working with you, I didn't really understand how to put those, I don't know what you want to call them, demons in the past, like to rest. And really just like suppress them out of my life and move forward and learn a lesson so that I know how to move the needle forward in my own life. But I would say that moment years ago was when I realized I needed help, but I didn't really find the help for a few years, which, I'm very passionate about the fact that I couldn't find the help either, because that just says that how many people are out there that know that they need help. They know they need someone to talk to, but they don't even know where to go to find it.
Yes, I would agree. And I also believe that, thank you for your honesty, first of all, because I think so many entrepreneurs look for business coaching and masterminds, and it's all focused on strategies, and not enough of people really understand that if your own personal life or your emotional well-being and resilience and your mental well-being is not really taken care of, that it will be influencing your business. So what I experience with a lot of high achievers is that they keep signing up for masterminds or just, hiring business coaches, but they don't hire anyone to help them really with their relationships, with their emotional well-being, how to process stress, how to, really take care of yourself in all aspects of your life. And when we just focus on business and strategies, it is great, but at some point we hit a wall. And then it bleeds to every aspect of our life. Would you agree?
Yeah, I've gone through seasons, and I think anyone who owns a company goes through seasons where all we care about is how do we get to the next stage or whatever it is that needs to move the needle forward for our team. And in the meantime, what ends up happening is we lose the guardrails that we try to keep in place to keep time for our family, keep time for our self-care, keep time to do nothing but read and relax. And I go through that. I still go through seasons where I forget that I have these guardrails in place, and that's really when stuff comes crashing down. And if you don't have anyone to hold you accountable to keeping yourself, your family, your mental and spiritual health intact, then it will crash. Now, will it crash to the point you lose everything? Like I almost did at one point. I don't know, but unfortunately, I should say, fortunately, now that I've been working with you, I'm a lot more proactive. So when I feel or see a signal that I'm falling back into that season, I'm like, you're the first person I tell, like, here's what's going on. I want to make sure that I don't fall backwards because I know that I feel inside I'm about to fall backwards again.
Yes. And I appreciate it because every time, as you say, when you feel that something is showing up for you, I immediately get a message from you. and you tell me, and I know that you need me or you just need somebody, right, that is outside of your business, somebody who can really speak to different parts of you than just business strategy. That is very important, correct? So as you mentioned, now when you feel that something is showing up for you internally and it might feel maybe overwhelming or you need some support with it, I immediately get a text message from you and I'm there for you. And so it's this, you build this report with someone, right? That is not your husband, that is not your CEO, somebody who is outside of your company, not your friends or your family, who can really hold space for you and also give feedback and also support you with whatever you need. That is separate from your business, but it does influence your business and your personal life as well. Correct? So, what were you surprised to discover when we started working together? So, you hired me for what reasons? Why did you really decide to?
Um, when I first started working with you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I realized how much my business and personal life were being impacted from my past.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, everything from how you respond or react or communicate, your body language, the things that trigger you at work. I don't think I realized how much deep work that I needed until I really actually started the work. And when I have trigger responses to certain things throughout my day or in my marriage, I realized it was really me. It was me, and it was something that I had to let go of or change or adapt or control. Like I, felt in the past sometimes, and I don't want to say like I had like a victim mentality per se, but it was like I didn't understand the reasoning why certain things were triggering. And as we started doing really deep work around certain things that happened throughout my childhood, the more and more we work together, the less and less I'm getting triggered. Mm-hmm. And yes, I have super stressful days and there's stressful situations and all these things that I'm still going to keep coming to you to. But I will say now when we do certain exercises, I don't get the same deep anxiety attacks that I used to. I don't feel that like gut wrenching, I don't know what the right word is. I just don't feel this like gut wrenching hardship anymore. I can actually talk about my past or go to a moment in my past and feel okay even talking about it. And in the past, when you would ask me about stuff like that, I was like, I can't even go back to this moment because I would bawl my eyes out. I couldn't think straight, and everything from maybe an employee says something to me and I was auto responding too fast and not in the right way. And I don't think I realized that maybe that person was triggering me ongoing through something that was bringing up a piece of my past childhood. And I think that ultimately working with you has made me more comfortable being self-aware and talking about it. Like sometimes we all think it's embarrassing in that if we open up about something that's mentally hurting us, that we feel weak or someone else is going to think we're weak or judge us or whatever. And I'm just at this point now when I talk to you that I'm like, it's helped me so much that no disrespect, but I don't even care what you think about my past problems and me and who I am, because everything is just like the more that I talk about it and the more I work on it, the more I improve. So I'm just at this point where I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm just willing to do whatever it takes to move my family, my marriage, and my business forward. And I think, it just takes a lot out of someone to really even admit that they need to become self-aware. Like I'm very self-aware now when something happens, like, oh, I know that I don't know if this was them or me. And if it's me, what do I got to go do to figure out why I responded this way? Why do I feel this way? Why does my body feel this way so that I can not feel this way again? And I just think a lot of business owners think that, when I grew up, my dad was always like, be tough. Oh, you won that one. That's just one game. We got to get to the next. It was just like you didn't really, like how I was raised, is you weren't really supposed to feel emotion to some degree. And so I don't think people realize that, like, it's okay to feel emotion and we need to allow ourselves to cry. We need to allow ourselves to laugh. We need to allow ourselves to feel and then continue to work on our self-development with it. But if we never go to anyone to talk about anything, like it's just a matter of time before either your personal business, something in your life will come crashing down. And I feel the same thing in my marriage. Like if I'm not working with you consistently, it's like, we train sales teams. So we talk all the time about how you need to do consistent call audit reports on all your salespeople every week to keep them in line and steered to the process. It's no different in a marriage or any relationship. We have to continue to work on the process so that our marriage can stay in alignment. And it's completely normal for us to fall off track and then come back and fall off track and come back and keep those guardrails in place to keep us a healthy marriage. So anyways, I don't know where I'm going off with this topic, but
it's amazing. And I love that you are sharing that, first of all, because right when you hired me, you are such a successful person, correct? You are very successful in how you run your companies and how you interact with people. And so you would think that we are very aware. You were aware of a lot of things, but we don't know what we don't know. And as you said, you were aware of a lot of things in business, but we were maybe not aware of a lot of things, as you say, that caused us certain behaviors or certain emotions that come really from our past. And I remember when we had our first session, and as you say, now we can have sessions when you might not even cry, correct? More often than not. And our first session, you remember, it was so much of the emotion that has been trapped in your body for years and years ongoing without being attended to. And so I remember you felt overwhelmed, like a lot of my achievers, right? Because you stay in your head all the time because you need to be strategic. You need to be focused on business because that provides for your family, for all the people that work for you. And when we stay very analytical, we don't have space for emotions. And as you said, a lot of us are also raised with don't feel feelings. That makes you weak. Crying makes you weak. Get yourself together. Be tough. You need to go out there and make more sales and provide for people. So this will be so relatable to so many people because you are not the only one. Literally, all my clients, deal with this. And I want you to tell me, how was it in the beginning for you when we had the first sessions and there was a lot of emotion, there was a lot of pain? Was that comfortable for you, or was that something that you were, never really ready for? Like you were ready, but on some level, it's still uncomfortable to deal with.
yeah, I don't think I realized what it took to really like suppress things out of my past. And at first when we started working together, I don't think the right word is embarrassing, but
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like, I shouldn't say this because there's other people that obviously grew up way worse than I did, but some of the stuff I just feel is embarrassing to even talk about. And then you feel this sense of like weakness or embarrassment that like I'm allowing that
Mhm.
situation to control me and my reactions for this long in my life. And so it's just really hard to talk about because like the more that I talked about it out loud, I'm like, wow, I'm really letting this like one day of my life that traumatized me or a situation like control how I respond the whole rest of my life.
Mhm.
And it's just really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to even talk through emotions because I think again, like I just feel weak and embarrassed sometimes. Now I don't care. I'm just like, let me cry it out. But when we first started working together, it was like, I've come off and everyone in the industry or that follows me
Mhm.
thinks I'm like this, confident, savage, alpha female.
Mhm.
And like Tiffany doesn't have emotion
Mm.
and all this. I'm like, no, I'm actually the most emotional human on planet Earth. But, yeah, I was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable because like one, I had to find trust in you too, that I
Mhm.
could trust someone so deeply that I'm comfortable even talking about this stuff. And then as you started pulling out stuff in my past, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much these situations impacted my marriage, my family, my relationships with my siblings and my mom. And
Mhm.
so to have all those like minor situations in my life start to suppress has made me like this sense of like relief in my
Mhm.
life. And I just don't think I even realized I had the issues. I didn't know what I didn't know, I guess, when I started working with you, and it was really uncomfortable at first.
Yes, and it is so common. And I just want to really acknowledge you that you kept going because I remember the first session for so many of us are so uncomfortable because we are not used to sitting in front of somebody else who is a stranger, correct? Like you didn't know me, I didn't know you, and you really open up the most intimate places in your heart. Like you open up the most intimate places that maybe nobody else ever really saw or heard or experienced in a way that I was able to, correct? Because I am
Yep.
here for that for you. And so you mentioned that everybody in the industry thinks you are the strong, alpha, resilient woman and confident. And in many ways, you are. We also don't realize that we adapt in that way in our life because we had to. We had to adapt to be tough and strong and not show emotions. And it served us very, very well. Now, what have you learned through our work that what served you in a business, being tough and resilient and not showing emotions, didn't serve you in your relationship, especially in your marriage or with your parents? What are the things that serve you in a business, but then when you transfer the same approaches or skills to intimate relationships, it doesn't really work?
Yeah. So one thing over the last couple of years that has been a complete mind shift for me is that especially before I had Sailor, I was raised by a single mom who had to work her ass off for me to be sitting here right now. And ultimately, I saw what my mom had to do just to raise us. And like, I was raised in a way that was like, I'm not dealing with anyone's shit. Like, no one, I'm not relying on any human being to get me to wherever I have to go. And even when I got married to Josh, I'll never forget looking at him when we got married. And like, it was like, don't think that I'll need you. Like, I don't need anyone. And I've always had this philosophy. And then after I had Sailor, I started feeling this like, I actually really want him to provide. I want him to do these things. I want him to be the man of the household, because in the past I was always like this alpha, like, yeah, I still want you to be the man of the house, but I don't need anyone to take care of me. That was like my mindset. Yeah. And as I've become a mom, in my nurturing side, I'm like, you know what? I do want to be taken care of. I do want someone to spoil me and love me, and I don't want to be up here. I actually want him to be here and me to be here. Like, and I didn't used to feel that way. And so in the past, I felt like I was really dominating, or at least saw eye to eye with Josh versus, letting him be kind of the head of the household on the day to day. And that's been a really massive shift for me the last year, is being okay with the fact that I want to be taken care of. And in the past, I would have felt weak or like scared that I was, I don't know the right word. I don't want to say submissive. That's not right. But that I was relying on somebody else. And what if that person got up and left or whatever? Because my real dad left my mom, and like, that's all I think about. Like, I don't want to ever rely on someone that could leave. And obviously Josh is not going anywhere, but
Josh, we know you are staying.
Yeah. I'll chase him down.
I know. Listen, I'm with you.
But I just think that I've allowed myself to feel my feminine side a lot more this last year than what I ever have in the past. And that's different for me. Like, I normally like am sitting in a dominant seat, and I am slowly backing down. And it's not just in my marriage either. Like at work, I'm trying to back down my wanting to control everything, my wanting to be in charge and be in control of my own destiny and let other people take the reins. And so I'm really just learning how to take a step back and trust other people, to move the needle forward, not just in business, but in my personal life. And that way I can actually take a step back and be present, because the last like 15 years, I don't know if I've ever really been like present. I've always been working towards something I have to conquer in the future. And I like don't live in the moment sometimes. And I think this last 6 to 12 months, I've been way more in the moment and not worried about an hour from now, tomorrow, a quarter from now. So I don't think I would be feeling so like calm, collected, and present if it wasn't for the deep work I've been doing.
And first of all, it's so, we can laugh about this, but it's true. When you speak of your dad leaving your mom, your biological dad, your mom had to become dependent on herself. There was nobody to support her. And also there was such a breach of trust right? For a woman with kids. And when you witness that as a woman, you become that too. You don't want to trust men. You don't want to depend on anyone because they can leave you. So then it leaves you in the state of fight flight all the time. So you are constantly trying to feel safe by controlling, right? Because
Yep.
there is this subconscious belief they can leave me, they can abandon me. And then what do I do if I depend on somebody too much and they leave? Then how do I manage myself? How do I manage the business, right? And if we have kids, how do I do mothering now on my own? So it's better never trust and never really like surrender and lean back and allow our partners to come in, or even at work, the people to really step in so we can lean back. Because if something happens, we are not ready because we've been leaning back too much. And now it's so much to deal with emotionally if that happens, that it's better just to stay in control. And so that shift, it is hard. It really requires a lot of willingness, even willingness to be open to something else, because being very alpha, and I know what you speak of, because when I think of my own life, I had to be very strong and resilient as well. I grew up without dad. He died when I was 3. And my mom was also nobody will tell me what to do, right? Nobody. And very proud and very self-reliant. And she told me always, don't get anybody to disrespect you. You hold yourself very high. You don't share your feelings. You don't share your struggles. Like, be the tough person. And just the same as for you, it helped me in many ways. I moved to another country at the age of 19, and I survived, but it was survival, as we say, when we are not present to ourselves and we don't have time to relax or rest, because relax and rest means we are not providing and we are not producing and we are not controlling. It feels very unsafe for us. It is very different way of being, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to hear that Joshka is allowed to step in more, and he not even allowed, but like, you make space. So we are not allowing our partners. We just remove ourselves a little bit so they can take the space that we really do want them to take, because we want to be taken care of. You work hard all day long. You are responsible for so many people. It's nice to come home and know that I don't have to be now the boss in the household right now. I can just be a woman and be taken care of, and it doesn't take away from me being strong and resilient. It's the opposite. I'm very strong to trust you that you will always have the best interest in my mind, and I don't have to be, the one that is in control and doing again, the constant doing, right? So how did the relationship with your family, besides your marriage, how did the relationships with your extended family change in any way by doing this work?
So when I was growing up, now this has changed in my family, but when I was growing up, like, it wasn't a thing to really say like, I love you, or show like emotion. It was very alpha in my house in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word, but
yeah.
And I feel like since I've done a lot of deep work, like, just saying the word I love you was uncomfortable. And now, like, I won't end a conversation without it. I won't get off the phone without it. And it's just allowed me to like build a deeper bond with my parents and my siblings. And I'm pretty hard-headed. So whenever I have a, tiff or an argument with a sibling or a parent, in the past, it would like result in us not speaking for a while. And now, like, I wouldn't ever allow that to happen in my life again. Like, I would never allow for us to get in an argument and not speak for a month or something. And I've realized that was being driven by me. Like, I was the one that couldn't just have an argument and then settle it out and move on. Like, it's healthy to have conflict, but, and I don't know, I think that really stemmed from just losing my real dad when I was little. It was like, that's how you solve things. Like, my dad, when my mom and dad would argue, my dad left, and that's how it worked. And so throughout my whole life, whenever I had to come into contact with a conflict, my immediate reaction, I don't think I realized this until lately, was I'm just going to leave. So like, whether I walk out the door or I don't talk to you or whatever it is, that's just how I coped with things. And now, I look back and I definitely never had ill intent with it, but now I would just like, I would never take that time for granted again. Like, I would never allow a night to go to bed being mad at each other. I wouldn't allow another day to go without telling my sister I love her, even if we got in an argument or something. And I think it's because I'm comfortable allowing myself to feel those feelings now. In the past, it was like a sign of weakness where if I was the one that broke the non-speaking time here, then like I'm the weak one. That's how I felt. And now it's just like that stuff doesn't matter to me anymore. I just want to love, the people I care about, and I want them to love me and move our ways, like I just made so many things to be way deeper than what they are. And I took small things way bigger. And now I'm okay with feeling feelings. So it's like, okay, let's feel this out and just move on. Like, let's get mad at each other for 5 minutes. That's fine. And then let's move on.
Yes, but you see, this is such a beautiful share, because when you say I used to run, right? It's literally your nervous system response unconsciously. So your body and your brain work together. And when we feel a threat or a danger, and what meant for you when you were growing up, when there is conflict, or that would leave, and it would make you feel disconnected and unsafe in that relationship with him. So subconsciously your body and your brain adjust, and they find a way for you to cope. So it's really you trying to process your feelings, but the way we are processing is not very helpful very often in our relationships, right? So when you are running and you want to leave, it's not that you do it, to hurt the other person. You are doing it because your nervous system is literally saying there is danger. This is not safe. This is not going to feel great. So let's leave, because we need to regulate, but because you didn't have appropriate skills to regulate yourself and your nervous system, the smart thing was to leave, because if I wouldn't leave, what would happen? It didn't feel safe. So we unconsciously create so many behaviors, adaptive behaviors, to protect ourselves and protect the relationship and protect the connection, that very often it looks like we are leaving the relationship and we break the connection, but literally we are trying to save it. And it looks like it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense, because we do make sense, and our behaviors do, everything that seems like it doesn't make sense, it does make sense when we understand what is really happening. So because you are doing it right now, you are choosing love, and you also understand why you are reacting in specific ways or responding, and you are choosing love. How did that improve just the quality of your life experience?
So I used to have, I still do have some anxiety, but I used to have severe, like every night of my life. It's kind of crazy looking back, like that I went to bed every night with this like 100-pound thing on my chest and like would go to sleep. So like imagine just 36 years of exhaustion of like 100 miles an hour in my head every single night. And I think that ultimately I've been able to feel the sense of like the world is not crashing down. And like something so small would happen in my life before, and I would think, oh, the world's coming crashing down. And Josh's first words when he sees me, like he can tell just my body language if I'm about to spit out some like, fire, whatever's happening. Yeah. He'll always look at me and be like, the world is not crashing down. Now let's talk. And I think now I don't feel that sense. Now I do still get it sometimes. I still, but at least now I understand what's triggering it. So like I'm still working on it, but I know what is triggering it. In the past, I didn't even know that, like I wasn't even conscious that something was happening that way, that I had to pay attention to a trigger. I just thought that's how I was supposed to be. And I still suffer from some anxiety, and I still suffer every once in a while from like depression. But one thing that I've recognized is it only lasts for like a day. And I think it's because I've put this support system in around me now, that when something triggers me and I feel this sense, I'm like, okay, this isn't a healthy feeling. How do I fix it immediately versus letting it compound? Because when I let it compound is when shit gets out of control. And so ultimately working with you has allowed me to understand, okay, I feel this way. What is causing the feeling? What do I do now that I know what's causing it, to either suppress the feeling, fix the issue, or what is the problem, so that I don't just Because I think when we all have anxiety, we get so caught up in the actual problem that we never actually come up with the solution because we're so fixed on the problem. And now I still respond and with anxiety sometimes, but I at least take a step back. I recognize it. I either talk to you, Josh, or someone within my tight circle, and I'm very self-aware, and I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? And a lot of times it's sitting in a room by myself, doing a breathing exercise, doing something first just to take a step back and recognize, okay, world's not crashing down. This isn't that big of a problem. How do I stop my body from feeling this way? And that's what I've been working on now with you is like, I get it. I see the trigger. I don't want to feel this way. Why do I still feel this way? So I'm still working on that right now.
Yeah.
But at least I'm aware. Like, I think that's the first step is like, I'm just aware that it's a problem. And I know that I'm the problem. I'm not blaming the problem that I'm having anxiety anymore. Where before I was like, well, this problem over here is the reason why I have anxiety. And it's like, no, I have anxiety because I'm allowing myself to feel anxiety.
Well, there is something that is triggered within you, right? So there is something that has been triggered. And when you say, when you feel anxious, you are so fixated on the problem and you can't relax. So when we get into fight flight, so we get activated, our body gets activated. Now the logical part of our brain gets offline. So we don't have access to prefrontal cortex. That's the part that, is able to strategize, make plan, find solutions. When we are in fight flight, so anxiety is one way we know we are in fight flight. We are now in an emotional part of our brain. There is no access to logic. So no matter how much thinking you will do when you feel anxiousness, it's not going to work because we need to go and work for the body first. And as you say, understanding where am I feeling this in my body? What is happening? Breath is one of the ways that we can really regulate ourselves. So when we say we are in fight flight, we are now dysregulated, right? We are now escalating. So what we can do is just understand, as you say, this is what is happening, taking a step back instead of leaning forward and, kind of overloading other people with that. Sometimes it can still happen. This is normal. Your body is there to protect you. But when we take a moment and, as you say, you go and breathe and you sit with yourself and you first regulate your body. First, we need to calm the body, calm the nervous system, bring it more to ventral vagal and connected instead of fight flight. And when we are able to do that, then we can ask ourselves the logical questions. Then we can really strategize and we can start understanding logically. But I think a lot of times when we only work with the mindset and we want to fix everything by thinking differently, we don't address the body and the nervous system, and it's connected to our brain. So no matter how much you want to think positively that I'm not anxious, if your body is in fight flight and your nervous system is responding, there is no way you can feel calm and connected. So this is such a valuable, understanding for you and everybody who is listening, because we can get trapped in like just think better thoughts. There is no access to logical brain when we are in survival responses and we feel danger and we feel like somebody will abandon us or somebody will leave, somebody will think, something of us. I know now you don't even care about this, and that's amazing because I remember when we started working together, that was a big thing for you. So as someone who has been always using, your mind all your life to solve for problems and be very analytical, how did it feel for you? How did you experience the exercises that we've been doing together, even like breath work that really connects you to your body instead of staying in your head? Did you think it was crazy? Did you think it was useless? Was it comfortable? If you can share, because I think a lot of women who are very analytical, right? When I say, let's take a breath, they think that's a waste of time. So how was that for you, your experience?
I remember the first time you did a breath exercise with me, I'm like, this lady is batshit crazy.
I knew it.
And, but then after I did it, and then especially the time when you had me lay down and we, did different noises in my ears or whatever the heck you had me do.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, what is happening to my body? Like I had tingling and numbness, but the crazy thing is, we went into that session with a really deep issue I was trying to work through. And then by the end of the breathing, what it did for me was it just completely like evened out my mindset. Like I didn't feel the emotion and the anxiety towards the decision making now. So, so like now that my body was calm and I felt level-headed, making the decision or figuring out what's next was way easier because I don't have like negative or anxious emotions involved in the decision making now. And so the breathing just like took me from, you know, chaos to just calmness in order to now continue the thought process. But what I realized out of the breath work was I had to remove myself from my mind and just live within my body and soul while we're breathing. And like, it just takes you to a place of calmness. But at first I was like, what is breathing going to do for me? Like, let's just get to the point.
I know. And I ask these questions because let me tell you, all of you, my beautiful clients, you go like, Ludmila, that doesn't make money. What do you mean? Where is the strategy? Give me the, right? Like, give me the, I go from point one to point A to point B, and I need the strategy and the plan. What is this breathing? That does nothing. I'm just sitting here, right? Because the mind goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And we've disconnected so much as alpha women, high achievers from our body and our feminine and our nurture and our pleasure and playfulness, that we just like think about everything. So it's like, what's the next step? So that's why I wanted to ask, because I literally thought that. You never said it to me, but I thought this is how you felt. So what I had one person, we were doing breath exercises. She opened her eyes after like 2 minutes. She's like, okay, it's not working for me. This is doing nothing. Like, and so it can be a lot of resistance from the mind, right? So we live here, but we experience emotions in the body, right? When we feel connected, we experience it in the body. When we feel love, we experience it in our body. Yes, we have also loving thoughts, but we feel in our body. So when we disconnect from the body, it's like we don't have a lot of access to feeling. So what would your advice would be for high achieving women who are amazing at business or their careers, and they are crushing it, and they think they have it all figured out, but they are still feeling maybe overwhelmed, or they hit a burnout, or they feel there is something missing in their life, or they are questioning their fulfillment? What would you tell those women?
I think the smack of reality is that you're doing it to yourself. When I get overwhelmed or whatever feeling of anxious it is, it's like normally a result of something else that I'm putting on my plate. So I have the last, actually 30 to 60 days more than ever figured out, how do I say no, continue to say no more and more and more. How do I put these guardrails up in place that protect the things that make me sane and happy and fulfilled? Because so many people out there, and maybe people disagree with me on this, but so many people feel like everything that you have to do in your life 24/7 is supposed to be like this ultra fulfilling, like dream come true. And it's like, our careers, although you should never do anything you just absolutely hate, right? But the career for me anyways, I love doing what I do, but I care more about doing it with people that I love being around. And so what I've decided to do over the last year or two was, I think ultimately it doesn't matter what work you do. What I've learned is I can get really good at something that today I might be passionate about, but in 6 months it gets old. And so I think that's what we're seeing in society. People do something and they constantly want to change what's next. And it's like, because it doesn't fulfill them internally for what they thought their dream was. And it's like, I don't look at it that way. I look at what I do during the day is to fulfill the family and the experiences and all these other things that I want to do in my life. So I look at it differently. And not that I don't love what I do, but I just realized that every time that I feel this sense of overwhelm, it's because of something that I did. Like I have control over when I work, when I travel, what I do, what decisions I make. I have control over these things. I have the ability to say yes or no. And then if I say yes and then I get overwhelmed, that's a me problem. And so I have the ability to change that. And I think ultimately a lot of women more than ever, because we have to be a mom. And if you're also in business, then you got to be a business owner. And then you go to work and you're like, you feel like you got to be a mom to, who knows, other people or whatever. And the reality is like, you control that. Like I have the ability to control if I want to go into work and be the mom. I can put someone else in place to run the day to day so that I can do the things that I love to do. But ultimately the moral is that we have control. And before I was just, the victim mentality of, well, I'm a mom. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I'll never be able to be good at any one of these things then.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I was like, no, I want to be a good mom and I want to be a good wife. And I also want to be in business, but what's the priority here? And so for me, I've realized, hey, the mom now is taking more and more precedence. So, okay, great. I have a guardrail now. And from, 5:30 to 8, unless you have an emergency, I'm not handling it. And so it's allowed me to be very present. So I might not have the quantity of hours that maybe a stay-at-home mom has with their kid, but I'm very, very present in those hours. Then with Josh, I've learned over time to put guardrails in place. And I will say that's still a challenge because I work with him and go home with him. Yeah. So it's just hard sometimes to balance the time. But ultimately, we are trying harder and harder every month to continue to spend time together where work's not involved, Sailor's not involved, and it's just me and him. Mm-hmm. And I think that ultimately what I learned there was like, you have to be creative. Like, we can't just assume that we always get a perfect day of the week to have a date. So if not, like today, Josh and I went to breakfast for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. We woke up and I was like, you know what? We need to spend time together. We have 30 minutes. We're going to use the 30 minutes. And I think that ultimately I'm trying to make sure that I have more control and less excuses over how my life turns out.
And how you feel
now
too,
that's
right. Yeah,
that's still not going to stop me having anxious feelings or whatever. I feel like I'm always probably going to have, some type of reaction. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the more I keep those priorities straight and remove the things that overwhelm me versus stack more on it, then the better the chance anyways that I won't feel this anxiety or let this depression slip back in my life because I'm constantly connected. And what I was realizing when I was feeling that depression was because I was work, and then it removed this connection, this human connection between me and my friends, my family, my daughter, my husband, because I was so work focused. And now I'm like, what is the point of making money if I'm not 100% fulfilled? So, I just I've really flip-flopped all my priorities. And the crazy thing is, the more that I put time into these things over here that actually don't make money, the more money I actually make anyways.
Correct. So thank you that you even say that. Thank you. And oh my gosh, this is so valuable. Because when you say, when I felt depressed, I realized there was lack of connection. And that's exactly what happens with your body and your brain, because you go into shutdown. When we talk about depression, it is really your nervous system dysregulation. When we go through fight, flight, and then the system gets too exhausted or we cannot handle it, and then we go to shutdown. And when we are in shutdown, we feel like we are depressed, like we don't feel anything. We feel disassociated. So there is lack of connection, lack of security, lack of safety. We feel very apathetic, right? So the more you allow the space for connection with yourself and with others and with things that fill you up, like with music, right? I know that you love music. For some people, it's walking in the nature. For some people, it's being a lot with their families and their friends. The more we create the time off work to feed the connection, the pleasure, the playfulness, you feel so much better. And then when you feel so much better and you feel supported and your cup is filled in the connection space, guess what happens? You become more creative, you become more fulfilled, and you start creating more in your business. 100%. But there is no strategy for that. The strategy is to heal the parts of us that are blocking connection, that are thinking I need to just work, and be constantly a workhorse without paying attention to my relationships because that's too hard and that doesn't bring money or that's scary and people will leave me. And so when you said that, I felt such a, yes, this is exactly what it is. And people don't understand that. And we think the more we work, it's going to help us make more money. But the truth is, the more you allow yourself the space to connect to yourself, connect to the people that you love, and do things that, like, I know you like traveling as well, the things that really fill you up, this is where you will see your business thriving more. Otherwise, it's just survival, and it's repetitive, and it's survival, and it's disconnection. And from that, not much. It is, you can create from that. But as I said, at some point you will hit the wall, and it's going to hit so hard that you will feel like I'm completely depressed and I don't know what is going on with me.
Yep.
So yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so great. Okay, I think I have the last question for you. Thank you so much for all your time. How do you feel, or what do you do to feel connected to yourself when you are on your own, and really, really feel deeply connected to yourself and to your family? And how did your relationship with your daughter change?
So what I've been doing lately to feel connected is I've been taking every single night now about 15 to 20 minutes to myself, and I sit in the hot tub every night and I
Me
just
too.
decompress, and I write a few things down, and like that's all I need. I just need that 15 to 20 minutes of me time where it's just decompressing. And ultimately that way, when I see Josh or I see Sailor, like I'm level headed. I've had time to reflect on my day, how I felt today. How did I eat? How did I feel? What triggered me? What went well? And in the past, I would never take time to myself. Like it was like Sailor, then Josh, then bed. And I woke up and it was like becoming this vicious cycle of just doing the same thing every day and just like trying to get to the next thing. And now I just have learned to slow down. And and more than ever lately, I have not felt like I have to conquer the world all at once, because in the past I have felt very much like, oh my God, I'm so behind. I'm so behind. I'm so behind this person over here, this person over here, because I know that I can do this, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm just very like, you know what? I am where I'm at in my journey, and, you know, other people can respect it or not respect it. I don't even care. And so what I've learned to also do is unfollow the majority of people in my life. They're even good friends of mine. I unfollow them.
Yeah.
So that way I don't catch myself comparing myself. I don't even want to sit there and waste my time while it's, 5:30 to 8 with Sailor and I get my phone out. I don't even want to give myself the opportunity to trap myself into seeing something online that drags me in and being like, oh, what are they doing? What's their strategy?
Yeah.
And so I've just removed the things that have even given me the opportunity to respond that way.
Yeah.
And then with Sailor, I've just been way more present. And, I still have days where I feel so guilty because I'm like, oh, I should be home with her. Like, why is someone else doing these things? I'm her mom. But I will say I feel good about going to work every day, knowing that I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours of quality time with her. I'm putting her in a position with at home to be fully loved. And I don't feel this sense of like, I'm a horrible mom every night. And I feel like every mom friend of mine has, runs into like, oh, I'm not the best mom. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And you have to cut your time between work, your husband, your siblings, your kid, your friends. Like it gets really hard mentally. But now I've just learned if I lose friends or I lose time with them, like I don't even care anymore. I just want to be with my daughter and my family, and but what's ended up happening is when you do see your friends, it's like you saw them yesterday and you haven't seen them for a year.
I know. And I think it's like we also have to understand what kind of friendships we want to have and cultivate, like in the specific seasons of our life. I am very aware, and I think you are too, that in some seasons we have less time for seeing the friends consistently, or maybe in the way that they need us, and it's fair. We can have different needs, but really checking in with ourselves, what is the priority for us right now and how much time. I think being very mindful, aware, and intentional with our time, because as you say, when you run a business and you have a child and you have a husband and you have a family that you love, being very intentional. How do I spend my time? Where do I put my attention to what is the priority? Which relationships really do matter? Which relationships are great for me and I'm great for that relationship, right? And really choosing that, instead of almost like, I used to do that with my husband, and we don't do it anymore. We used to be invited to birthday parties, from kids from school every Saturday, and we used to go. And then one time we looked at each other when we were living in California. We're like, what the heck are we doing, honestly? Like, we don't know any of these people. It's nice for our kid, maybe for a few hours, but they are not even best friends. And we are spending half of our, Saturday at somebody's house and we didn't even have fun. Our kid had some fun, but we decided we really have to be mindful how we spend our time because we are not gaining it back. We are not. So, some people say, oh my gosh, that's really bad for your child. No, we just take him to the parties where we know this person is really valuable to him as well. And that's what we are going to do. But I don't see myself or my husband every Saturday being at parties where we will see these people once a year. And then when he leaves middle school, we never see them again, So being very, very intentional. So I truly understand because we can feel like we are pulled in different directions, right? And we want to be like good wives and good mothers and good business owners and good daughters. And we can feel really pulled in different directions and feel overwhelmed or like we are never doing good enough job with any of them. But we are because we do care. And that we care is already such a great mark for us that we are great in all those relationships. So I just want to say thank you. You have been an amazing gift to my life, as a woman, as a business owner, as a client. I'm so blessed to meet you, to have you in my life. And thank you for your time today and for being vulnerable and honest about your experience, because I think so many women will be able to relate to your story. That's all. I just want to say I appreciate you. I see you. Keep doing the work that you are doing because you are such a valuable addition to so many people.
Yeah, I'm super
you, Tiffany.
grateful that I was introduced to you this last year. I don't honestly know where I would be without you. I think that I don't even know if I would be working today if it was for you. I probably would have caved, ran away, and did something else. But no, you just really helped improve like my relationships at work, my relationship with my husband, my family. And, I've had a couple broken family relationships along this journey of my life. And this year is the first year that they've become mended. And it just feels really good. Like I feel like a child again, where I feel just like loved by everyone around me. And I don't think I realized until I started working with you that I was the culprit of a lot of my own anxiousness or my own conflict. Like I was the one that created it. And, working with you has helped me be self-aware. It's helped, save friendships and family relationships. And I'm still a work in progress, and I probably always will be. But, I've just been forever grateful that you've been in my life. Like I think it's like a support. I think everyone really needs someone that's a third party that supports them. Because, we're uncomfortable or we're embarrassed to talk about these things sometimes with people that are ultra close to us. And even today, I still get embarrassed feeling some of the feelings that I feel. I'm like, why would I feel this way? I already know that I'm crazy for feeling this way. Like, why is this happening? And I've just felt like in a really safe space with you to be able to even say that, and not feel crazy or judged. And just get to the root cause so that I can move forward and not feel that way anymore. But I'm super grateful, and I hope you keep rocking it, and I hope you become the #1 podcast out there. I'll be sharing it everywhere, and people are crazy not to work with you, especially high achievers. I mean, anyone that owns a business, no matter what they say, they're going through mental hardships. Like any business owner is going through it. It's a matter of the ones that actually want to talk about it and be self-aware and not let it like collapse them on their personal life. So I pray that they find you, because I know that you're a lifesaver to high achievers. So,
oh my gosh, Tiffany, thank you. I receive it. And just grateful as well. So much love for you. And may we all be deeply connected to ourselves and those around us.